we are entirely focused on helping Indian merchants and Indian businesses and startups go global. PayPal's mission is to democratize access to financial services. Regardless of your socio-economic standing, of your race, of your gender, or your country, you should be fully in control of your financial life. Show up, speak up, and don't try to do it all alone. So I like the phrase follow your curiosity a lot more than follow your passion.
Tell us what it takes to be in the place that you are. And especially this is for all the girls, for all the women entrepreneurs and everyone who's listening to us today.
So I'm born and raised in Mumbai, and I've lived across US for a few years, but really wanted to come back home. So my career split across US and India. And I've spent 8 out of my 16 years with PayPal. So it's been a full roller coaster ride across many, many different functions. I actually started with PayPal in the US in product launch. And since then, my mindset was always about who is the consumer, how are we helping them solve pain points, what should be our strategy. So I kind of moved from a very execution focused product launch role and then moved into product marketing. And that was again in the US, but luckily for me that time, the India center was like the India commercial business was getting set up and they were hiring for the head of product marketing here in India. And I got a chance to come back home. So I took that opportunity and I was back home in 2016. I was pretty afraid if I'm going to like the culture in India or not. And I thought maybe it'll be a soft landing and then I'll see where I go in 6 months to a year. But 7 years later, I'm still here. That's thanks to the amazing leadership we have in the company, all the mentors and colleagues who've supported my growth and allowed me and taken a chance on me and shown confidence in me across different functions where I had no expertise to begin with. So I can share some examples of that.
I'd love to. And I also want to call out that one of the traits that I see in people who are successful and happy, they have loads of gratitude and acknowledgement, and that's what I see in you.
No, absolutely. I think to that end, whatever I have achieved so far in my life, it is thanks to both the help I've gotten professionally and all the people who've supported my growth and all the help I've got at home. Because for me, my dad is my biggest role model.
Wow.
And he's someone who, was a first generation entrepreneur. He came from nothing and he's churned out multiple businesses in his lifetime. So just the hard work, the consistency, the risk taking appetite for me was kind of homegrown and learned it at home and then implemented at work. And PayPal is a place where, if you're hardworking and you're consistent and if your heart is in the right place, people will take a chance on you and enough leaders will bet on you to grow you within the company. A lot of people think growth is only vertical growth, but I am a case study of the career jungle gym within PayPal because I've moved horizontally so many times, like from product to marketing to business roles, and now leading the India market. So that's my perspective overall. I think if you have to be a lifelong learner, and as long as you do that and you build the right relationships in your teams and hopefully get the right sponsorship, things do line up for you.
Yeah, no, this is brilliant. And what I'm also taking away is that in today's world, there is no one path.
Absolutely.
Right? And then people have to, we all have to as leaders and in leadership roles also take chances and take bets on people, and then we have more leaders.
No, exactly. It's so right, because I used to get very upset early career when people used to say, find your passion. Because do something that you love, and I'm like, I don't have any one specific passion, and I probably still don't have
a lot of answer. Like it can't be one, no, unless it's music or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and I didn't have that growing up. I think I'm just someone who likes variety. I like trying new things.
Yeah.
So I was curious about things. So I like the phrase follow your curiosity.
Yeah.
A lot more than follow your passion, because you can get curious. You can try something and then realize a year later that's not for me. Maybe I should try something else.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You got to keep experimenting till you land on something that might become your passion.
Tell us what's happening, because there have been so many news. Give us a sense of PayPal operations here in India.
Yeah, sure. So this is the commercial office, right? And our commercial team is about 50-60 people here, and we are entirely focused on helping Indian merchants and Indian businesses and startups go global. That's one part of the story. And the second big focus is for Indian consumers, like you and me, if you want to buy from abroad, then we provide you the access via PayPal.
Okay.
So those are the two main use cases that we're targeting. India is also much larger in terms of the tech center. So that's separate. We have like 5,000 plus employees across Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and they work overall on product and tech and innovate for PayPal globally. But our focus is really how do we get Indian businesses to the world stage. And that's really been our value prop, our key bread and butter throughout. And that's also, we have a very purpose-driven company. So, that's our long-term vision, to really see all our Indian startups and Indian small and medium-sized businesses, which are the backbone of our economy, how do we actually help them grow globally? And our strengths really are very close to this, because number one, we are a brand that's built on trust. We've been in the business for 20 years. And trust is not something, say, a new gateway can get up and say that, we want consumers to trust us. That's very hard. So we've done that work over the last 20 years. We've built the trust. So today, imagine a consumer from abroad, like from the US or UK, wanting to buy from an Indian seller.
Yeah.
They may love the product, right? But do they want to share their card details directly? Maybe not. And that safety and security of money is at the heart of any payment system.
Yeah.
And that's the trust, that just the fact that the PayPal logo is present on that website allows the consumer to trust that website also. So in some way, we lend our credibility and trust to the merchant. And with that, we've kind of built the entire business so far.
Chandni, what does it take for a brand to build this kind of trust which PayPal has done? What are some of the behavioral things that you do as a brand?
I think it all starts with understanding the consumer or your customer really, really well. So in our case, it's a two-sided network. So we have two customers. One is the merchant or the business, and the second is consumers like you and me. So we really go deep, doing a lot of research, a lot of both qualitative and quantitative research to understand their buying patterns, their behaviors. What is the pain point that they're trying to solve for? And sometimes it's not even a pain point. Sometimes it's like, how do you add convenience to their life?
Yeah.
Because they may, consumers in general, I think, are bad at articulating their problems.
Yeah.
But when you actually see them in action, interacting with different products, you can tell as a product manager or as a marketer, how could you actually improve on that experience? So that for us is the number one thing. So when I actually moved back from US to India, I did over 200 interviews across different parts of the country, just understanding buyer behavior and understanding e-commerce.
Wow.
So that, helps. And we have teams in PayPal who do that pretty frequently, where we actually go down, sit down, do these interviews, along with a lot of other market research studies, which helps inform our product strategy. So it's both outside in and inside out combined. And that kind of lays the basis of building trust and foundation. Now, that said, it's easy to get the first transaction. But the hard part about building a brand or building loyalty is how do you get the customer to keep coming back to you?
Yeah.
So for that, you have to find the right use case where you're actually creating delight for the user. And in our case, checkout is our primary use case where people trust us and they come to us. But you'll be surprised that 80% of our volumes are driven by 30% of our users.
Wow.
So that goes to show that the loyalty is so critical, and engagement of existing users can be as important or more important than acquiring new users.
Yeah. Having said that, the question that comes to my mind is that, India, if I could say from a technology standpoint, is one of the best payments market now, and with UPI and
right.
The whole fintech, the startup ecosystem, everything proliferating. How do you do things? How do you then, in this market, which is extremely competitive and becoming more and more competitive, and everyone is looking at India closely when it comes to transactions, is that PayPal retains the lead that it has when it comes to especially cross-border transactions. And second thing is that how are you looking at acquiring new users?
So I think firstly, competition is good. It keeps us on our toes and makes sure that we keep innovating. For us, where we are highly distinguished, besides the trust factor that we talked about, is also our two-sided network. Like, we are probably the only payments company that can boast of over 400 million consumer accounts around the world in 200 countries.
Wow.
And about 35 million merchants who trust us and have grown with us, right? So that alone, the trust factor and the size of our network takes us a long way. So we already have that leadership position, and we're continuing to take share. because many new fintechs have cropped up, but they're still struggling with their business models, or it's going to take a while till they get it right. And just the scale at which we operate and the fact that we've existed for 2 decades, gives us a leverage. But that said, we haven't slowed down on our innovation, right? So we have to keep innovating on our core use cases that we believe will remove friction out of payments. And that's the entire focus. So even if you look at checkout as an example, how do you make checkout faster, safer, and more seamless? That's something that's our North Star. We're constantly driven by it. So product teams are constantly looking at how to shave off seconds off of your checkout experience. Because we're all busy people, right? Like if your checkout is taking few more seconds and more hops and more number of screens, it's very easy to lose the customer.
Yeah.
So how do you make it frictionless? How do you make it faster? And also, how do you give buyers flexibility in how they want to pay?
Yeah.
So that's also key. And that's something that, we take a lot of pride in, because we have products like smart payment buttons, like basis which country you come from, we can show you the right way to pay, which may be relevant to you. So if you come in from the US, you may want to even pay with Venmo. Or you come from Australia, you want to see the product in Australian currency, the price, right? So Australian dollar. So according to where the customer is coming from, they may also be shown buy now, pay later options, like, okay, pay in 3, pay in 4, pay monthly. And that really increases the propensity for the customer to pay and makes their journey much easier.
If I'm just asking, if I'm a seller based in Madhubani, in Bihar, selling Madhubani artwork, and if I want to sell it across the world, how do I get to know that there is PayPal and I can use it?
See, I think luckily a lot of the reach has been organic because of the brand that we have built. For many startups and sellers who want to go global, PayPal first becomes the natural choice. So they try to integrate us organically. They go to our website, they create a PayPal business account, and they submit the basic, verification documents, and then they can get started. Now, as these volumes grow, we have multiple teams internally that take care of you. So there's an inside sales team, there's an enterprise sales team, and as the accounts grow, you'll have the right customer success managers linked to you. And we also have integration teams who work with them. So like with we can help them set up a single PayPal account where they can receive money from 200 markets. And they don't have to worry about going and, forging local partnerships everywhere. Because we've done the work and we have all the bank partnerships already in place. So with that single integration, you can actually collect money from over 200 markets in 100 currencies. So we solve that problem for them.
Yeah. I want to get inside your mind and say, how do you plan, how do you strategize in such a fastly changing, competitive, technologically driven world? Because, when you started 20 years back, you were the leader, you are still the leader, but how do you imagine the next 10 years?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So I think the way we're looking at it is, right, just incremental changes, which will keep improving our core experiences. That is also step one. We don't have to do like a step change and launch a brand new product offering altogether, which we also do. But at the heart of it, how do you get the fundamentals right?
Yeah.
So that is a constant focus at PayPal. So even today, despite us being in the business for 20 years, we keep innovating on our checkout experience, right? How do you make it more safe, more seamless? How do we innovate on our fraud detection even more? We already have world-class fraud detection because of the data sets and the large scale that we work with. But how do you improve it even more? Because we don't want the bad actors to get away. We don't want a good consumer to have a bad experience.
Yeah.
So those are the things that our teams are constantly focused on. And alongside that, like just making investments, not just in checkout, but like across different payment use cases. Like how do we allow you to be fully in control of your financial life? So we also have like the PayPal digital wallet in several countries where there are different use cases where, and we've seen users who use the PayPal digital wallet actually are 2 times more likely to pick PayPal at checkout also, because we're already such an integral part of your life. So, just realizing what is your primary use case and the tertiary aspects where you can engage the user, that's a very key focus. And also fundamentals around availability and uptime. So how do we make sure whatever legacy tech debt we have, we solve for that? How do we make sure our platforms are constantly up and running? The uptime and availability should be there. Like if Shradha takes the effort to say pay with PayPal, after that, the transaction shouldn't fail. So conversion rates again is a very, very big factor if you ask any payment player. So constantly looking at our conversion journey, and innovating on that, making it safer, seamless, and more convenient. So that's kind of the fundamentals. And from there, new product innovation also spins, and fixing the fundamentals also spins from that.
Yeah. I was just thinking many years back here in Mumbai only, there was a campaign we'd done called Chota Business Bade Sapne. And there are so many small businesses, retailers and sellers who want to sell big and go global. One, I would love to understand from you, what's the trend that you have seen in the last 8 years? And if you could talk about the changing aspirations of the MSMEs, of the SMEs here in India.
So I think I can at least talk to the last couple of years, right? Like COVID really leveled the playing field for many of our Indian sellers. And not just people who are into products, but even services. You're a tuition teacher, or you're giving classes in math or science, or you're a freelancer doing some creative design. Suddenly, the world audience opened up to you. And that shift you've seen in the numbers throughout, right? Like that aspiration was always there, but now the opportunity came with COVID.
Yeah.
So that's how we've seen many of these businesses, and we again become a natural choice for them to partner with. And in some sectors, we've seen just phenomenal growth, especially things like edutech, which like really took off during COVID. And of course, now there's a post-correction happening to it. But at that stage, partnering with them in a deep way, giving them consultative services also, like, maybe because many of them started with just invoicing, PayPal invoicing. Then they went on to checkout, then they went on to more complex integrations. And so our teams have been partners to them, strategic partners throughout, and that's been our good successes that we've created in the edutech sector. And now I think the same will replicate across SaaS companies, health tech companies, and several other fields. So I think the MSME dream is just ripe, and it's ready now. And thanks to COVID, we've got that digital acceleration by at least a good 5 years.
Yeah. What do you think can be done to sell more from India to the world?
Yeah, so I think there are a bunch of initiatives we're taking even externally, like with our government relations team. We're trying to forge the right partnerships at an industry level where we can create coaching and training for these sellers on how to go global.
Oh, brilliant.
So those are kind of things that we're thinking about, and it is a hard problem, of course. And also, like, I've seen sometimes these sellers also have a cap on their aspiration. They're like, itna kafi hai. Like, I don't want to go beyond that. And sometimes they're happy with selling in their local towns, even though they have fabulous products that may,
they are content, which is also good.
Yes, exactly. So it's really up to that individual founder to also have that drive to take it global.
If you had to share with all of us one or two things that you think would define the trends, be it in terms of cross-border selling transactions or in terms of payments.
PayPal's mission is to democratize access to financial services, which means regardless of who you are, regardless of your socio-economic standing, of your race, of your gender, or your country, you should be fully in control of your financial life. And that to us is the future. So today, about 2 billion people in the world are still living outside of our financial systems. So all the things that you and I take for granted, like paying a bill or sending money to a loved one or doing online checkout, it's hard for those people. So how will payments industry on the whole work together towards financial inclusion? I think a lot of trends will come gearing towards that mission, at least from us, and I hope from the other players in the industry also.
Yeah, we all need an equal world. At least pandemic showed that we are all equal in so many ways.
Exactly.
Yeah. Chandni, I want to ask you, what's your plan in terms of, the journey that you've made? When you look at your career, what are some of the things that you're focusing on? And if you had to share a secret, that how do you get to a senior position? Because, everyone works hard and everyone invests, but how do you, create that arbitrage for yourself? What would you say?
Really, if I had to, summarize it, I always think show up, speak up, and don't try to do it all alone. So first is showing up, and showing up on the hard days. Now, especially with women, right? We've all suffered from confidence issues at some point or the other, and we suffer more than men do in that area. So how do you get yourself to get out of bed even on the hard days? So you got to have something to look forward to.
It's very hard.
It is. And there's no one size fits all. For some people it's running or yoga, or sometimes it's talking to a therapist. It could be anything, but find what works for you to get out of bed and feel excited every day. That's just number one, showing up on the hard days. And second, I think speaking up. That's something I think I struggled with in my early career, where suddenly if you're in a room full of alpha males, you can't even get a word in.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard. And the way at least I got to solve for it, I didn't solve it, my leaders solved it for me. And I've been very fortunate because leaders at PayPal, they've created airtime for me. So if they think you have something valuable to say, even if it's a 10-15 people meeting, they'll ask me, okay, Chandni, what do you think?
Wow.
So then I know that's my 2 minutes. I can make an impact. And that's what good leaders do. And that's, I think, our shared responsibility also to pass forward. If we think somebody is quiet, but they're smart, they have something to say, ask them to speak up, ask them to share their opinion.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing. And I think thirdly, just don't try to do it yourself alone, because it takes a village, right, to build a career also. So knowing who are people who you can go to for advice, knowing people who will help you get to the next stage, and really just trusting even critical feedback, because a lot of times constructive feedback will come your way, especially if you're a very ambitious person. You're trying to get ahead too soon. So we all get impatient also in our early careers.
Yeah, of course.
So how do you balance your expectations and just look to add value and look to learn? And then the rest, I think, takes care of itself.
Yeah, this is brilliant. And I was just thinking that somewhere what you spoke about, the second point, I want to come back to it again, is that you in a room full of people where everyone is raising their hands, and generally many of us are not wired to raise hands. So as leaders, as people in the room, it is also our incumbent, our duty to make sure that everyone does.
Absolutely so.
Yeah. Chandni, before we end, tell us, next 1 year for PayPal here in India, what could we expect?
Very key focus for us as a team is going to be, how do we help startups go global? Because through the pandemic, again, we've seen, you track this industry better than anyone. So you've seen the number of unicorns coming out of India.
Yeah.
Us being the third largest startup ecosystem in the world.
Yeah.
And third only to US and China. And if the optimists are to be believed, we'll probably surpass China someday.
Yeah.
So, and we want to be there for all our Indian startups. We feel pride to see our Indian startups grow so well, and we want to be part of that journey. So how do we help them scale up, manage their risk and fraud, and actually with simple integrations, receive money from over 200 markets, help them with their payouts and downstream payment needs, and help them grow. So that is a big area that we as a team are looking at.
No, we are looking forward, and we are looking forward to the launch from PayPal and tracking PayPal's journey in the next 1 year, and how, as you said, rightfully contributing to the startup and the SME ecosystem here in India. And thank you so much. It was actually very inspiring talking to you, because, it's for me also good to talk to women leaders. And
it's a pleasure to meet you.
Women leaders.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.